So thank you all so very much for coming. I love talking about LinkedIn. It's one of my favorite topics. I also love kind of getting out of my Granger Hall bubble to talk to other graduate schools across campus, so it's very nice to meet all of you. So today we're going to talk about optimizing your LinkedIn profile, and I know we have a lot of mix of students in the room here for a lot of various reasons and various job search or non-job search statuses. So kind of on purpose, I make these presentations a little general sounding, so we're all kind of have the baseline knowledge, and I can answer more specific questions as we go along as well. But that's kind of the feel of it. I'll give you a general overlook of LinkedIn, making sure that you are setting yourself up to utilize it as best as possible and optimize it as most as possible as well. So a little bit about me. I grew up in Madison. I was born about 5 blocks from here and never had a good reason to leave. So I stuck around and went to UW for my undergrad. I'm a history grad from the university. Anyone else history? Kind of? A little bit? Okay, all right, good enough. So I graduated here in 2005. I started my post-grad career at Epic. Any Epic people in the room? No? All right. So my early career, I was in human resources. So I worked for 2 years in HR, working at Epic Systems Corporation when they were growing from 2,000 to 8,000 employees. I think they're over 9,000, 10,000 now. It was a very interesting time to be there. I worked primarily in the benefits area, managing health insurance, enrollment, and all that fun stuff. After Epic, I fortunately went into a job at the Wisconsin Alumni Association. That was back in 2007, which was a very interesting year to enter career services, because around 2008, 2009, there was a lot of alums calling us for help. So that was a really great foundational experience for me to really learn about career services, how universities help people with careers, and then working with employers on finding the best employment for students. So that was a really great foundational experience for me. Around 2014, I entered the entrepreneurial world and opened up my career consulting business called Career Light. And so I wear a few hats here. My primary one is I work at the School of Business working with our full-time MBA students. Are any of my students in the room? No? Thanks, guys. So I work with our full-time MBA program over in Granger for the Wisconsin School of Business. I've been there for 4 years now, and my primary responsibilities is managing the career development programs that we offer our students, including a lot of job search, interview training, that sort of thing. But we've incorporated a lot of professional development and leadership development into our program. Very recently, we incorporated a lot more StrengthsFinder training. If you're familiar with the StrengthsFinder assessment that's put out by Gallup Corporation, it's very tied into kind of how to move up in your career, not just to get your first job kind of development. So that's a little bit about where I've worked. But really, who am I? I wanted to give you like a really good snapshot of who I am. I'm hitting my 13th year in my career, primarily working in HR and career services, as I mentioned. I'm an extremely proud advocate of higher education. I thoroughly believe in it, and I will probably always work in it. I'm a kind of person that constantly seeks process improvement, which drives my coworkers crazy, and then maximizing potential in everything I do. So I approach a lot of things with the element of I want to make it as best as I possibly can. I'm also extremely energized by other people's strengths and coaching on those strengths and willingness to build on them. And a lot of my coaching conversations are surrounded by, okay, that's what you're doing now, but what can you be doing and what can you be in the future? I'm really passionate about the future. I'm constantly future thinking. I'm a very solutions-focused kind of career coach, and I'm an extreme advocate for those who need one. And I'm very proud of that. So really my branding statement, and there's a point of me doing this. The branding statement that I would describe myself is I'm an educator. I'm very focused on building strengths, coaching on talents, and training future leaders who will do good in the world. So if you look at the slide before and this slide, which one got you to know a little bit more about me? This one? And so when we're talking about personal branding and how to represent yourself, not just in speaking engagements, because not all of you will be doing things like this, but also online, including LinkedIn, thinking about yourself and all of the talents you bring to the table, not just where you worked, is extremely important. And it's how I'm going to form the foundation for this presentation, is when we're talking about LinkedIn, it should really represent all of you, not just where you've worked or what you've done. So moving forward to what we're going to accomplish today, we're going to do a little branding activity at your tables, so get ready to participate a little bit today. I'm going to go through keys to a complete LinkedIn profile, and I'm just calling it a complete LinkedIn profile because we will literally go through each piece of the basics of a LinkedIn profile, talk through the benefits of all of them, make sure that you're just kind of informed and educated about the purpose of all the parts of a LinkedIn profile, and make sure that you have a complete one online. I want to then go into how to use that for networking and the importance of using your social media presence for that networking and building a network purpose. And there's a few features that are brand new in 2017 I'm going to highlight that I think is kind of taking the LinkedIn platform to a kind of a different level, so I'm going to go through those. A little brief social media considerations, just if you're looking for a job, if you're not looking for a job, some things to pay attention to in terms of just broadly on social media. And then we're going to take the last part of this and actually look at your profiles. And so this is a session that I encourage you to take out your phones. You can be on your phone the entire session if you want. Be on your computer, have your profile up as we walk through. I definitely encourage that. At the end of this session, I'm going to have you bring those up, and then as tables, we're going to talk through it, and I'll bounce around and give our own advice on each other's profiles. And then afterwards, there's an opportunity to get a headshot for your LinkedIn profile. So I definitely encourage you to take advantage of that. So sound like a plan? Thank you. All right, so a little bit more about your brand. And I shared how I describe my brand. And so there's 3 questions I want to pose to you, and just to kind of think about and ponder. You don't really have to write them down. I'd like you to have a little discussion at your table. But the first thing is thinking about 1 to 2 things that you can teach someone else to do. It doesn't have to be professional. It can be in your personal life or however you want to think about this question. Typically, if you're able to teach someone something, you are skilled at that. So that's kind of the angle that we take in that question. The second one is thinking about 1 to 2 things that you did in a class or part of a homework assignment or something that made you so passionate or interested in it that you talked about them to someone that was not in that class. And then the last thing is thinking about a couple things that other people have done that motivate you. So I'm just going to take like 5 minutes if you just want to think about that. Write it down if you want, type it up. And then we're going to do some small group discussions to ignite our conversation. Sound good? Okay, let's transition into sharing and talking about yourself. So how to facilitate the small group discussion, if each of you just want to go around and just pick one of these or a couple of those that you'd like to share, and just one element in both of those. So you don't have to share everything that you thought about, but just share maybe an aha you had or something that you want to share with the group. And we'll take just like 5 minutes sharing in our small group, and then we'll bring it back. And I'm going to wander and listen to you guys. How was that? Was it easy to talk about yourself? Most people do not find this easy. Anyone want to share something that they can teach someone else that's kind of fun? I heard cooking, I heard other thing, throwing rocks. What was the other one? Identifying rocks. A lot of teaching, right? Like the act of teaching. Anyone want to share? Yes, thank you. No? Okay. One more? No? Okay, so, oh yes, okay.
I can teach somebody anything they would ever want to know about microscopes.
Microscopes. Good one, yes. Okay, so bikes and microscopes in the room right now. So the point of that is to start thinking about who you are and how you are going to represent yourself in various means. So LinkedIn is just one of those. And what I've discovered over the years as well is thinking about who you are, writing down who you are, and verbalizing to someone else who you are all very different learning mechanisms, right? And so the more you can do all three of those about yourself, the easier it's going to be to represent yourself when it really matters. So in interviews, if you're looking for a job, when you are up here doing something like this and you really have to know who you are. And so doing activities like that, I find it kind of kickstarts a lot more discussion as we move through now how are you going to write about yourself on LinkedIn. So why, just in general, are we talking about LinkedIn? It's still the world's large professional network. I've been talking about LinkedIn for close to 10 years now. And it now has 530 million members. There's less active members than that, but in the system there's 530 members. The red number up there, 467, was just last year's number. So that's the number I used in my last year's presentation. So you can see how much it's grown just over the last year. They say, this is talking points from LinkedIn, but they say professionals are signing up to join LinkedIn at a rate of more than 2 new members per second. That's insane. More than 40 million students and recent college grads. It's the largest, still the largest growing constituency on LinkedIn. And more importantly, a little more for our discussion is companies do use LinkedIn to find people like you. And I'll broaden the word companies in case I know a lot of you are not necessarily looking for a job. Broaden that to companies, contacts, people you want to know, people who want to know you. We're kind of in LinkedIn now. We're in the zone now where it's not this new cool thing that some people are using. It's kind of part of the system now. And people use it just in their daily life. It gives you an incredibly efficient way to manage your network as you meet new people. And bridging on our initial conversation, it's a pretty simple branding platform. It's a nice way for you to kind of test out how you're representing yourself to the world. Okay? So now on to building your complete LinkedIn profile. The handout that's on the table, this is a LinkedIn handout. On the back side of it is the URL, just students.linkedin.com. There's a lot of good resources on there beyond this. They have a whole student handbook. They have PowerPoints. They have a blog that lists down and talks about new features within LinkedIn, so it's a great place to bookmark and take a look at every once in a while, but that's where I got this checklist. And so we're kind of walking through this, and as I mentioned before, if you have your phone out or your computer on your LinkedIn profile, you can kind of walk through yours as we go along here. But we're going to talk through how to use LinkedIn based on your current career objectives, and then walk through photo, headline, your experience section, education, skills, projects, and then finally the summary, which I view as the most important part. So knowing your career objectives. I know there's a lot of various people in various stages of their career in this room, but my point for this slide is to let you know that LinkedIn is relevant no matter where you are in a job search. So maybe you're actively looking for a job. How it changes your profile is typically more in the summary section. I would encourage you to be very open and honest that you are in an active job search. A lot of people are a little timid for that because they don't want to be so open and honest that they're looking for a job, especially if you're in an educational program. It's fine to say that you're looking for employment. I've seen job seekers even put in their headline, "I am looking for a job." Sometimes that looks a little too much, which is why I'm suggesting the summary section, but that's where you can emphasize that, yes, I am looking for a job, here's who I am, here's what I'm good at, here's why you need me in your organization. So maybe you're passively looking for a job, so don't put that in your summary because your current employer will see that you put that on there. But even if you're passively looking for a job, LinkedIn is incredibly useful. But this is your chance to make sure you have a complete LinkedIn profile, that all of your experience is up to date, that your current job is actually in your profile. I've had a lot of clients who don't update their LinkedIn profile that often, and one in particular got a reach out about a job that's related to a job that they had 5 years ago because they hadn't updated their LinkedIn profile. So if you're even passively looking and looking for contacts to contact you, just make sure it's up to date. And even if you're not looking for a job, I would argue this is where LinkedIn can be the most useful for you. So let's say you are not active in your search, you're a student, or in some cases, you're a professional that is just wanting to beef up their contacts even for their job or outside their job. LinkedIn then is your opportunity to kind of represent yourself as that professional. So probably the easiest parallel is using HR recruiting. So if you're an HR recruiter and you're not looking for a new job, there's so many people out there that is actually the LinkedIn profile is for their company to recruit people into their organization. That's using LinkedIn as your personal branding platform, but also for your current profession to assist you that way. So regardless of what situation you are, building your profile based on the bucket you're in is important because it can change what you put in your summary and what you put in your experience. So, your photo. So these are 3 real people on LinkedIn. I do not know them. I just randomly picked them. So if you know them, that's random. But I thought we could do kind of a group critique of these 3 real LinkedIn photos. So the guy on my right, your left. Thank you. What do you think? Nice? What? A what? Oh, okay. I thought this was a good one. I thought you said man, and yes, he's a man. I picked this one because this is a pretty standard LinkedIn photo. A lot of people have this kind of photo, right? It's professional, he's wearing a suit, and it can be because a lot of people have a photo like this. But it's also good, right? It's a good photo. You can see him clearly. I like that it's not a busy background, but there's something behind there. It looks a little more put together than just like a glamour shot, blue background. So that's a pretty standard LinkedIn photo. What about the one in the middle? It's a real one. Do you know who that person is? They like to drink wine. Could be in the wine business. Yeah, marketing for, yep. Her, I'm trying to remember who she is. See, it's not good branding. She works for this wine company. I think she is a marketing coordinator for this wine company. I don't like it. Does anyone like that? No? Something, okay. So the one in the middle, I would not suggest an object, right? Because again, part of your brand is you. And this also kind of might look like a fake account. There's so much fake social media out there that the more real that you can put in your social media, the better. What about the one on the far side there? Nice photo? Too busy? A little unprofessional, could crop. Yep, so I picked this one because my eye doesn't immediately go to her. I don't know. My eye went to the things in the background. And it was a little too busy, so I was like, what is she doing? It looks like she's having fun. And I still wasn't focusing on who she was. And I actually never got to her profile. I don't know what she does for a living because I was too caught up in her photo and what she was doing. So for the one on the right, it is a very nice photo. For LinkedIn, it suggested that focusing more on professional, right? A little less informal. I do want to say for photos, though, it doesn't have to be formal. So if this guy on my right, your left, same photo but didn't have a suit on, that's still a pretty good LinkedIn photo, right? Still a good photo. So I don't want you to take away that you have to wear a suit. I think it should be nice cropped, focusing on the person. But ultimately, the takeaway of this is you should have a photo. Does anyone have a profile without a photo? Is that why you're here today? To get a photo? So you can't really see that stat on the right, and you'll get these slides so you can read all this later. But LinkedIn says that members with a photo get 14 times as many views. And I think it's a little to the fake account thing, right? Because if you don't see a photo, if it's just kind of the blank head that appears in social media accounts if you don't have a photo, I think that is now more equated to this person doesn't exist. And if you're going to be on LinkedIn, you should brand yourself as like you exist, right? Okay. So pick a photo that highlights you, the busy background, etc. You can dress professionally, but not necessarily formal. And a good high-quality picture is preferred. It's a little tricky, I will say, when you upload the photo to kind of get it exactly right. Sometimes they don't like really large files. And so if you're good at, can someone teach someone photo editing? Did anyone say that? No one's volunteering? Okay. So just so you know, it's a little tricky to actually get it up on LinkedIn correctly, but a good quality photo is recommended. All right, headline. Who has a profile with just the default headline that they picked for you? Most people typically do. You can edit it, unless if you didn't know that. So this can be your slogan. So the one professional fact that people should know is what LinkedIn suggests. The fact that goes with the slide is 50% of hiring managers will decide whether or not to move forward with a candidate's application based on their LinkedIn profile. Okay. So this goes back to also my career objective slide. So a couple suggestions. So business student seeking marketing position or brand marketing expert and communication strategist. So two very different career objectives, right? So the headline can play into that as well. I will say the default headline is just fine. However, this is your opportunity to inject more of your personal branding, what we talked about before. When I was over at this table, we talked about developing people, a coach, some other transferable skills that you get from teaching. Those are very good tidbits to think about writing a good headline. Okay, your professional experience. So I'm actually going to skip to this one because I get the most questions about this. So what are the difference between a professional experience section in LinkedIn and your resume? So the difference between the two, your LinkedIn profile really provides you a lot of opportunity for depth. So your resume, typically 1 page, sometimes 2. I know a lot of you probably have way more than 2 pages. But your resume is really your sales flyer, right? We want quick, to the point accomplishments with numbers and results. LinkedIn gives you an opportunity to expand on things that are on your resume, and you can provide way more depth and description about what you've done in your professional experience. Not to say, I do suggest some people just copy and paste from their resume. That's totally fine, but it is an opportunity for you to add more text in a LinkedIn profile with your professional section than you do in your resume. It also allows you to put more personality into your profile other than your resume. Your resume is really just a list of things you've done, right, and the accomplishments of what you've done. Your LinkedIn profile once you add your skills and experience, you can show really more of that personality that we talked about and your personal brand within all the sections that it allows you to add, right? And then the summary we'll talk about in a little bit. The platform of LinkedIn as well, it takes a resume and really broadens it and allows you to communicate that out way better than just a PDF of your resume. So LinkedIn is a living, breathing network. You can connect with people. You can send them information about yourself. And it's where employers can interact with you more, just as much as you can interact with them. And then the recommendation section. Does anyone have recommendations on LinkedIn? It's not as popular as I think LinkedIn was hoping. But recommendations do pop up if you search for the recommender or yourself, which can put you in more searches than not. And so this goes back to the living, breathing network as well, and putting yourself in more searches than if you did not have recommendations. So those are the differences, and I want to go back now to the professional experience section. So this is the section that most people are going to go to first, is your professional experience. And if you've noticed when you were building your profile, you can either have your professional experience or education. You can kind of move the headers around. And so this goes back to your career objective as well. If you want to use your LinkedIn as a branding platform for what you're currently doing, a lot of you are doing really cool things here at the university. If you want that loud and clear, I would put your education section first, if that's where most of your activity is happening. And then put your professional experience section after that. Another tactic that some of my students use is putting part of your education within your professional experience section. And so using my full-time MBA students as an example, some of them put in their professional experience that they are an MBA candidate at University of Wisconsin-Madison. And that's because a lot of them have a lot of work experience that's directly attached to their educational experience, and I know that you guys are in a very similar boat when most of your professional experience now is attached to the degree that you're getting. And so those are a couple tactics that you can think about doing as you're thinking about professional experience, especially if you had worked in a professional role for a while and now you're back at school and you have a gap, or a perceived gap is what I like to call them, between your professional experience and education. That's one way to solve that as well. Education, we talked about a little bit. A lot of people don't put their years in education. I'm a complete advocate of total honesty on all of this. So putting full years, when you attended, when you graduated. You're not really tricking anyone by not putting dates down. And if there's not information in your LinkedIn and your resume, they're just going to be asking why there's not dates necessarily. So school, degree, major. If you have relevant coursework, strong GPA, strong test scores in a test area that's valued in your industry, put those in your LinkedIn. They just say add it to show what you've worked really hard for. So don't shy away from the accomplishments you've had and the skills that you've built, even through your educational experience. Also under education, you've probably noticed that there's lots of opportunities to add projects. You can add a summary. You can do a lot of things under each of these sections. Projects are extremely valuable, especially for, I know a number of you, probably all of you, are working on very impactful projects while you're here. Brag about those. Put those on there. If there's a PowerPoint that you delivered to a group of professionals in the whatever research you're doing, you can put that on LinkedIn. One thing about putting it on LinkedIn is I would post a PDF rather than a PowerPoint. It just kind of protects the document a little bit more. But is there a question?
Yeah, something I've been trying to tease out and spend a lot of time on LinkedIn is what you can do for free and what you have to pay for premium prices for. And can you add skills topics stuff on the free version?
Yes. Yeah. I would never advise taking payment to anyone. Okay. You can do that. Great. The one thing I've heard from people, especially, mostly people who are in active job search and are networking a lot, is you have to pay for one of the packages in order to do a lot of people searches. So they do max you out per month on how many searches you can do for people, but that's really the only barrier that I've recognized. And it's quite expensive if you bump it up, so, yeah. Yeah, question? I would not suggest that. I mean, you can. I wouldn't, I mean, that's an ethical thing, right? I wouldn't falsely represent yourself on social media. Okay, skills. Who has put skills on their LinkedIn profile? This is incredibly popular now. Yeah, it's really built over the last few years. So skills can be anything. You can put a free text thing in there for skills. So the skills section, you can put neuroscience. That's probably a category in there. Or anything that we've talked about in the beginning of this presentation. And then once you put the skills in, your contacts can see that you put a skill in, and then they can endorse you for that. And the plus side of putting skills in is those also pop up if people do a people search for keywords. So if they are looking for career coach and they put it in, if I am endorsed a lot for career coaching, I would probably show up higher on the search if someone searched for career coach. So skills, I think, are okay for kind of representing your brand on LinkedIn, but it's incredibly helpful for when people are searching for you and you're doing networking that way using the system. Projects we kind of talked about, but projects can go under your professional experience or education, so you can put work projects on there as well under your professional experience. And then if you did the tactic before that you put your education within your professional experience, you can set it up very similarly in each of the sections. All right, the summary. How many of you have summaries? Not a lot. This is kind of hard to write, right? So your summary kind of ties it all together. This is your best opportunity within your whole LinkedIn to tie all the pieces together to represent your brand. So my branding statement I shared at the beginning of the presentation, I actually don't put in that in my summary, but I should, right? It's a very good cohesive way to represent who I am. I think I put in my summary that I love reviewing resumes and I'm proud to work for UW. And so I have some other tidbits of my personal brand in the summary as well. So you can also use your summary to describe your trajectory. So what are you hoping to accomplish? Where will your skills, experience, and future goals take you? Again, if you're in an active job search, I would put that in there. I'm seeking a role to combine my skills in these areas in an industry like this kind of thing. So I definitely encourage you to take a look at your summary and get creative with it. This is your biggest opportunity for showcasing your personalities. Definitely include hobbies, interests, somewhere that shows the whole you on your LinkedIn profile. We are hearing more and more from employers that they want to know that people are people outside the workplace, and they want to know more about you than just what you do during the day. And so that was that, and when they don't see our students actually talking about what they do outside of work and listing hobbies and interests on their resumes, we hear from them. Like, we don't really know your students because we don't know what they do on the weekends. So I encourage you to get creative with this, include cooking, include other things that you're definitely interested in, not just that is directly related to your career path. Okay, any questions about the overview of the profile? Yes? Link to your website. So there's a website section. Yeah, I think it's under your contact information. You can put in a website. That's where I would put it. Yeah, because the contact information, it kind of shows up as a digital business card on the side of your profile. So I would put it there. And you could also repeat it in your summary and your professional experience. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's totally up to you. So they have, I think, 3 tiers of privacy in LinkedIn. So when you are viewing other people's profile, you can pick how you personally show up to those people. So you can be completely anonymous. You can just have a general, like someone who worked at the UW-Madison viewed your profile, or you can be full on public. In my line of work, I'm fully public all the time. It just kind of serves what I do, and I feel like I would be not walking my talk if I wasn't. But that's totally up to you. They make it an option because it's up to your comfort level of how public you want to be with it. Yes?
I've had contacts add skills for me, like they've endorsed me for things like Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel, and those are skills that are normally list. Is there any harm in not accepting those endorsements?
No. Yeah, so this is your profile. I would only use things that you view as an asset and what you want to get out of it. If someone endorsed me for Word, I'd be like, thanks. So yeah, I mean, that's up to you. The skills that you view most beneficial to your job search or career path, that's what you should kind of put on there, and then other people will endorse you. I've had people type in things for me that I'm like, I've never done that before in my life. Why do you think I'm good at that? It causes a little self-reflection, but yeah, I mean, it's up to you. The basic things that you probably would guess, Word, PowerPoint, I mean, unless it's really relevant. Excel is one, exception to that. I think if someone endorses you for Excel, that's a very hard, tangible enough skill that you should put on your LinkedIn, for sure. Yeah? Yeah, so if you, good question. So if you don't want it live while you're working on it, I would make it private. That's your best shot of not being showed up in searches, and then you can kind of bounce around and no one will kind of know that you're doing that. Anything else before we move into networking? Okay. So, you guys will all have a complete LinkedIn profile after this, but then what is the next question. So I want to go into a little bit of advice about using LinkedIn for actual networking. And so having all these profiles, including other social media and whatever online presence you have beyond LinkedIn, that's really only the start of it. Actively engaging what you've kind of built within these networks is actually how you are then networking, okay? So 4 steps to kind of get started if you're just kind of new on LinkedIn and you're just reaching out for people at the same, for the first time. Definitely number 1 is we all have a lot of connections and they're probably all on LinkedIn already. And so reach out to classmates, family, your friends, social circles, staff and faculty of this institution and your previous institutions. Reach out to them and start connecting. That's really how you can start building it very, very quickly. The second thing, ready your marketing materials. So alongside this, just in case it's asked for, I would definitely have a nice reviewed resume ready to go. Especially if you guys are approaching a job search, having one ready is essential because you never know if you're putting yourself out there, you never know when it's going to be asked for, and putting your resume together under tight deadline when someone is expecting it that day or something is extremely stressful and it's kind of hard to do. So if you're putting yourself out there, definitely have a nice reviewed resume ready. Have your updated LinkedIn profile ready. We kind of talked about that you can kind of do it in tandem and then make it public once you feel comfortable doing so. And then practicing your pitch. So has anyone gone to a workshop about elevator pitches or elevator speeches? Okay, so elevator pitch is basically if you're at an event like this, if you come up to me, and hopefully you do, and come chat after the event, I would probably ask you, oh, what program are you in? And being able to kind of explain who you are and your trajectory and what you hope to get out of probably this conversation in 30 seconds is what a pitch is. So again, the more you put yourself out there, the more you kind of attack your search, attack what you want to get out of content like this, making sure that you can verbalize who you are in very short time is very important. Is there a question over here?
Yeah, so for your resume, should that, you can upload docs onto LinkedIn?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So should that resume be that document, can it be in background?
Yeah.
Or should we keep that reserved for when it's asked?
Yeah, so great question. So you can upload documents, and he was asking if one of those should be your resume. A lot of people do that. That's up to you. The con of not uploading it is you never know when you want a different version to be viewed by different people. And so especially if you're in a job search, if you put your resume on your LinkedIn, you're kind of saying like, this is my resume for everything. And that's kind of hard to do, especially if you're doing a variable job search and you might want to do little tweaks. And so putting a static document kind of out there just makes it harder to change. Then if you make changes, then you have to change it on LinkedIn. So that would be the con of doing that. But people do that, especially if you're not doing an active job search and you're not changing it a lot. I think that's fine to put it in there. Great question. So I'm going to answer it similarly to your other question is, in my line of work, yes, I accept everyone because it's helpful for me and my clients if I know a lot of people on LinkedIn. But everyone can kind of use the system in accepting or denying connections how you want to use it. I also have colleagues in the same line of work that I am that only accept connections of people that they know really well. So it's really however you want to use the network. If you haven't been in the system and played around with it a lot, there are 3 tiers of connections. There's first tier, second tier, and third tier. The first and second tier, you can still see who they are and how you're connected with them. And so even if you're not first tier connected to a lot of people, you can still see their connections. And so your network is it's a little larger than who you are first tier connected with. But obviously the more first tier connections you have, it kind of spirals, right? And so it's kind of up to you how you want to do that. Okay. And so the third, after you're all ready, you have your pitch ready, you have your resume ready, you're reaching out to people, thinking about how you can expand on your existing connections and reach out using your affiliation circles. So thinking about the affiliations you are building, just being in the programs that you are. So there's alumni, not just of the program you're in, but wider network out to UW-Madison and even to UW System, to the Big Ten, and so you can kind of see how that expands out there. Employer connections that you've met along the way, any student organizations that you're either a leader of or that you're a member of, and then professional organizations outside the university affiliation. Are you a member of any professional organizations that affiliates with your industries? And then the fourth one is the least used, but it's tracking all these connections. It's the hardest to do. It's really easy to accept someone's connection invite on LinkedIn. It's harder to know what to do with it and to follow up and to track your relationship. But I would just have that in your mind of a good networking strategy. As many times as you follow up with someone, kind of record that somehow to know, like, oh, I haven't reached out to her in a while. I'm going to reach back out and see what she's up to. So the fourth step in this is record who you connect with and follow up as appropriate. So here's my networking continuum, and it kind of goes to the tracking and reconnecting piece with your network. So the short-term networking opportunities, this would be things like this. So you're hopefully meeting new people at your table. Those are kind of short-term events. Maybe you send them an email afterwards saying it was really nice to meet you. So those are the short-term networking contacts. The more you follow up and turn them into long-term contacts, that's when you can call in favors, when you really need them. And so the more that you can then follow up, maybe a couple of you are going to the same conference next summer, for an example, then you maybe meet up for lunch at the conference, talk about the topics that you're learning about, then you follow up after that, and then it goes on and on and on, right? So this process from short-term contacts that you might meet at an event like this to long-term mentors produces the most outcomes for you. And it can take years for that to happen. And I have one personal story about that. When I started at the Alumni Association, I shared it was back in 2007. One of my first responsibilities there was co-chairing an executive board committee with an individual that was in the community a very well-known career counselor for C-suite executives. And so we kind of met each other, right? We were on this committee together. We did all these initiatives for the first year I was there. That was back in 2007. And then I kind of stayed in touch with her over the years. And back in 2014, so 7 years later, when I formed my business for career coaching, I reached out to her to get her advice. And since I had maintained that relationship over the years, she knew me really well. And then she started to refer people to me. And before that, it was really just like a networking contact. We just stayed in touch. We had lunch every once in a while. But if I hadn't really just paid attention to, this is a really interesting person, I really want to maintain this relationship, the business outcome and that part of it would have never happened. And if I wouldn't have maintained that relationship, reaching back out to her after 7, 8 years, she wouldn't know me, right? And so why would she refer people to me? So there's a personal tidbit of that short-term to long-term mentors and the importance of having people in your life that know you really well in each bucket of your life. Okay, so I mentioned the affiliations. Here are the affiliation circles. So if you're searching for people on LinkedIn to connect to, thinking about your most close affiliations, so maybe this example, maybe you play rugby. and you're looking for people who maybe were born in Minnesota. Maybe this person actually graduated from the same program you did. They earned a graduate degree in that program, and they went here for that program. The greater you can fill in those affiliation circles, the better opportunity that they're going to actually reach out and connect with you, right? And so this is just one example, but thinking about all the connections you have within this university, but outside as well, including your social circles, including your personal connections, including the contacts your parents know, your siblings know. Using those affiliations will get you the greatest connection back. If you are doing a cold email contact through LinkedIn with someone that doesn't hit any of your affiliation circles, it's less likely that they're going to actually respond to your note. So finding those people that have common characteristics as you, grew up or the same place you did, that sort of thing, is going to get you the greatest gain. So how do you do this? And you can practice with me after this event. I hope to have a lot of new connections on LinkedIn. So why are we asking people to connect on LinkedIn? There's multiple reasons. One great way is asking for informational interviews. And if you haven't done an informational interview before, it's basically just reaching out to someone who maybe is at a company you're interested in, doing what you want to do, or someone who graduated in your program that's doing something cool that you just want to have a conversation with. It's really just an opportunity for you to gain information from them, which is why it's called informational interview. It's your chance to lead the conversation to get what you want out of it, but LinkedIn is a great way to find people to have these informational interviews. You could send a thank you note for a great presentation. Follow up from an event. So again, if you met someone new at your table, following up, ask to connect with them on LinkedIn. And then general network building. So this is where LinkedIn is a network of people that you can do networking in order to build your personal network, right? So using those affiliations to actually build a group of people that is going to be helpful for you when you need them. Okay, so I'll just share one of these personal examples and or personal connection messages, and you will get these slides so you can see all of these. But for example, sending out a note, like I saw you were a fellow member of some group on LinkedIn and I really liked your comment about something. I have similar thoughts and would welcome a chance to share ideas more. Let's keep in touch. Or for informational interview purposes, I saw you currently are working in blank. I believe I could really benefit from your industry knowledge. Wouldn't take more than 10 minutes. Can we connect? So really simple messages. One tip about sending messages while you're connecting with people is the mobile app of LinkedIn is it's kind of tricky to get to the personal, actually putting in a personal message. They make it really easy just to like shoot out connection messages to people, but that will send them the generic one. So if you're really hoping to send a personal note to someone, I would use the desktop version and not the mobile or iPad version of LinkedIn. Just a tip for that. Okay, so what's new for 2017? And then we're going to get to helping each other with your profiles. So here's my assessment of LinkedIn. They're trying to, the guy who's leaving, his point about Facebook, I get the impression that LinkedIn is trying to become more of a network like Facebook, so connecting with people, knowing who's online at that very moment. You can think about the Facebook Messenger option on Facebook. So LinkedIn added an active status LinkedIn messaging. This goes to the privacy too, because you can turn this off. But if you're logged into LinkedIn, now there's a little green light thing next to your picture or somewhere up there to show that you're actively logged in. So that's something new for 2017. There's customized notifications, and so this is notifications that you sign up for that get into your email inbox or on your phone for the app. So you can do customized notifications, like if you're a member of a group and they post a new comment about certain things, you can say, I want notifications for that. And so it's, again, I think LinkedIn is trying to get more active, like instant activity within the app and the desktop version. There's new flexibility in posting photos, which also goes to the community, trying to be a little bit more like Facebook. And so you can put collages, it's a little more versatile in terms of posting personal photos as well. Yeah, question about that? Good question. I would still, there's all these arguments always on the comments of LinkedIn, like this is a professional platform. I kind of agree with that. I think they're trying to make it more user-friendly in terms of connecting with your network in a different way, but I don't think the content that you post or kind of go back and forth with should turn personal. But I think they're trying to make it easier for that connection to happen. So I tend to think of it more as still professional. We'll see if these new features and it kind of mimicking Facebook more turn it a little more informal. It would be interesting to see how people do use the photos. All right. So let's get to your profiles, and then the pictures, I believe, start around 5:30. And so you can bring up on your phone, or a lot of you have your computers up. I'm going to walk around as well if people have specific questions. And then around like 5:25 or so, I'm going to bring us back, and I'm going to do a bit of a conclusion for social media. But let's start on the profile reviews. So we're almost at time. I just wanted to call back your attention for a couple closing remarks, and then the pictures have started. I see them out in the hallway, so I'm sure there'll be a line, and feel free to go back there after. But a few considerations as you're approaching just social media in general, and LinkedIn is obviously one piece of this. So obviously, nothing is private online, and I would suggest you use this to your advantage. So if you are on social media, you can be seen. So be seen. So if especially if you're actively seeking a job or you're actively trying to build your network, presenting yourself in a way that can be seen and seen very often is to your advantage. I would also suggest to use social networks to actually network. So that's not, going back to my previous point, that's not just having a profile, but using it to accomplish some career objective. So become friends, members, participants, followers. We were talking about posting on the feed on LinkedIn about a conference you're at or an article you read. So be active participants, and that's how you're seen more as well. Use this to work on your professional brand. We talked a lot about who are you, how do you describe yourself in one short sentence. So this is an opportunity to present yourself and your professional identity to potential employers and potential collaborators and workers that you want to work with. So make yourself available, open to invitations, although we had a few discussions about how open you'd like to be to invitations. But use those opportunities to communicate that brand and become more comfortable, again, verbalizing your brand to others. And don't solely rely on an online presence. We all interact with people every day, but so it's not just about online. So social media is this weird growing thing still that is built for making online connections, and it's not too conducive to making offline connections. So that takes you really actively making your online connections into offline, and meeting face-to-face with someone, there's never, ever going to be a substitute for that. So this can definitely be an expediter and quick start to your network, but it's not the magic pill at all. So as I said, I wear a couple hats. My contact information is up there. I have a few cards if you're interested in continuing any conversations or you have questions after the event. You'll get these slides from the grad school, and I do want to put a plug in for other programs that they offer. They have a lot of professional development opportunities for you all, so check out their calendar. They happen each semester, and I think there's even a few more this semester happening, so I definitely invite you to check it out. I thank you for being here and listening, and it was very, very nice meeting all of you. Thank you so much.